Act 4, Scene 1, another key one here. Macbeth goes back to the witches. First thing I want to point out to you, which can be dealt with elsewhere, but do notice how this is essentially a parallel scene to Act 1, Scene 3. It's in exactly the same pattern as it. Worth exploring or looking at elsewhere. Okay, so we start with this famous bit of the witches around a cauldron, conjuring up or putting together some kind of spell, which of course in the end is going to be conjuring up these visions that Macbeth sees. Worth noting, thunder comes again, just like right at the very beginning when they first entered. Okay, we get this chant between the witches where they go around the cauldron and start throwing in horrific things. So what do we notice? Well, we've got things like a bat, adder, lizard, blind worm, the owlet. All of these are birds and animals that are to do with, are associated with evil. So they're kind of putting in unpleasant parts of evil creatures as they go through. Then we have a number of mentions of a blaspheming Jew, nose of Turk, a Tartar's lips. In other words, basically people that are non-Christian, heathens as they call them. Okay, so again, unpleasant parts of them go into the cauldron. And finally, something absolutely horrific: the finger of a baby strangled at birth, having been delivered in a ditch by a prostitute. I don't know what else to say about that, except that really sums up the kind of thing that they're putting together. There's a small little gap here, well worth noting that we don't pay any attention to this. This is clearly also added in. Okay, so what do we get? We get again the idea, by the prick of my thumb, something wicked this way comes. Before Macbeth ever enters, they know he's coming, but if the evil witches are seeing you as something wicked, then that says something, doesn't it? It suggests that he is now completely lost to evil. Okay, when he comes in, he may have come to see them and wants their ideas, but he still is insulting, as he was back in Act 1, Scene 3, greeting them as secret black and midnight hands. And then again, he starts to order them around. I conjure you, answer me. Yeah, and it carries on here. Answer me again. Further down here, essentially the use of imperatives to show he is commanding them. This sense again of his importance compared to them. So it doesn't bother them. We carry on with the normal speak, demand, will answer, and offering it to be heard from their masters. We go off then to these three predictions that we're going to get. Okay, these three prophecies of sorts, although the first one isn't really. So what are they? First of all, he's told to beware Macduff. Secondly, he's told none of woman born shall harm Macbeth. Thirdly, he's told Macbeth shall never be vanquished until great Birnam Wood to high Dunstane Hill shall come against him. Basically, he will never be defeated until the wood attacks his castle, which is on Dunstane Hill. Which, as he points out, is all impossible, and it suggests he's invincible. Yet, of course, there's something very, very strange about the way it's being said. And as we will find out later, of course, it is very equivocal. Why not say nobody can harm Macbeth? Why say none of woman born? The idea, it's almost in the form of what we'd call a riddle. But of course he doesn't want to notice this. He is having basically what you might call confirmation bias here. He hears what he wants to hear. That's what he's experiencing. And of course that means he misses some key things. He's not told these by the witches, he's told these by apparitions. The first one is an armed head. Why? Because, of course, why does he have to beware Macduff? Because Macduff will chop off his head while he's wearing armour. Okay, so essentially the apparitions are warnings. You find the same over here. A bloody child tells him none of woman born shall harm Macbeth. Of course, a bloody child because it's been taken out of the mother's womb by caesarean section. And the third apparition, a child crowned. That's Malcolm, obviously, the child of Duncan, crowned as king, with a tree in his hand, holding a tree, because obviously that is the way that Birnam Wood will come against him to High Dunstane Hill. He has absolutely no problem with all of this. He just says, this means I am essentially going to live the lease of nature. I'm going to live on and be undefeated. But he doesn't leave it there. He wants to know about Banquo's children. They warn him, don't ask, basically. Don't look for the knowledge. But what he does is he tries to curse them if they don't do this. Right? Anyway, that means they allow him to show. And what do we get? We get a show of 8 kings, the last with a glass. That's a mirror in his hand. So it essentially doubles the number. So what we get is a line of kings that seem to then come back and reflect back. The idea that it's not just that Banquo's child will be king, it's that it will go on and on and on. It's basically a dynasty that's going to happen, which I suppose points out to us that does Banquo, he may not get himself, but is he the one who really wins? As they show it to him, despite the fact that he forced them to, he starts insulting them. Filthy hags. Yeah. There's references to balls and sceptres, which is references to a political thing about the rest of Britain. Anyway, once again, there's a bit in here. The witches have left, so don't worry about this, or are leaving. So there's definitely not that. No more dancing that's going on around there. That's been added in as well. And then they disappear again. And in comes a messenger, Lennox, just as Ross came in that one, scene 3. This one, he's come to bring him the message that Macduff is fled to England. Okay? Which, of course, confirms beware Macduff straight away. It's worth noting that Macbeth is not covering things up so far, asking as well this time, asking Lennox if he saw the witches. And Lennox has no idea what he's talking about. Okay? Well, Macbeth just says, infected be the air when they ride, and damned all those that trust them, which is kind of slightly ironic, I suppose, because who does trust them? Him. Anyway, so he hears about Malcolm and then has an aside. A short bit when we delve into his brain again. Time thou anticipatest my dread exploits, the flighty purpose and every hour took, unless the deed go with it. Right, this is what I expected. So what does he say? He says, right, from this moment, the very firstlings of my heart shall be the firstlings of my hand. Okay, so his actions are basically going to be essentially emotional from this point on. Almost what we call his gut feelings. Yeah? And he says, again, carries that on a bit further on. He says that he's not going to boast about what he does like a fool. He's going to do it before the purpose call, before he's going to act in the heat of the moment, so he doesn't actually have a chance to change his mind. Why he's decided he needs to do that? Unclear. But what he does decide to do, of course, is kill the entirety of Macduff's family because Macduff has left. A desperately bad decision, because essentially he is creating a motive for revenge. Absolutely no point to this at all, as well as incredibly brutal.